Hey there, it's Mike Robbins here, and I am doing my very first video blog message, or I guess they're called vlogs. And I'm feeling excited about it, a little nervous about it, a little, sort of out of my element. And I actually am talking about in this message doing what works for you. So I want to share a little bit about this experience of even making this video and talk about how that connects to our ability, or at times inability, to really do what works for us. So, for many years, especially in the last few, there's so much video on the internet and so many people do messages like this, and I've had kind of an aversion to it for a couple of reasons. First of all, my own level of self-consciousness and my own level of just not feeling super comfortable with video was kind of probably the biggest thing. And I also had some judgment and like, oh, it's not really me, and it's kind of cheesy, and that's not really my thing, but that was really more of a smokescreen for the insecurity. The other piece is just in a really basic way, I'm kind of a creature of habit. And with technology and stuff, like unless someone shows me how to do something, I tend to just not figure it out on my own, right? So I literally did not know how to make a video like this until about a week ago. I had done a few things like this and have done some Skype interviews and different things, but literally I didn't know how to record one and it didn't really research it much. So I found out, did it, and thought, you know what? I actually kind of like this. This is not so scary, not such a big deal. And in fact, it totally works for me because, as you may notice, if you're on my email list, especially the last couple of years, I haven't been writing all that much. Not too many blog posts, not too many newsletters. There was a stretch of time that I wrote just about every week. But writing for me, even though I just got finished writing a book earlier this year and I've written a couple other books before that, it's really not my favorite mode of communication. It's not super easy for me. I enjoy writing, or I should say I mostly enjoy having written. I think there's a famous quote about that some famous author was asked, do you like to write? And she's like, no, I actually don't like to write, but I like having written. And I can completely relate to that. I like having written. I like sending things out that I write. I like sharing my writing with other people in a way that might touch them. I love getting feedback and engaging in dialogue about it. But writing for me, given my personality, given what's important to me, I find it difficult. I find it challenging because it's not relational for me. There's no one there. There's no other person or audience there to respond back. And it's a really sort of fertile ground for my ego and my own self-doubt and self-criticism to come in and, makes it somewhat challenging for me. So when I sit down to write a blog post, or when it's that time each week, I think, oh, I should write something, I should send something out. It becomes this big should, and it becomes stressful, and it becomes this project and this chore, and I've been sort of shying away from that, and what I've chosen to do is not write as much, which on the one hand feels like it's an act of sort of self-compassion and self-acceptance and just allowing my life to flow the way that it does, but on the other hand there's a level of disappointment that I have because I would like to be engaging more. And so anyway, doing this video, having this conversation with you, although I guess it's not really a conversation, I'm just kind of recording it and you're listening, but this is actually much easier for me ultimately. This is much more in, as my friend Gay Hendricks likes to say, my zone of genius. It works for me. This summer when I wrote my book, Nothing Changes Until You Do, which comes out in a few months, I was excited about it but kind of nervous about it. It was the first time I'd written in a few years, and what I was able to do with that, I had a much more pleasurable and enjoyable experience writing that book this summer because I got some great support, specifically from Melanie, who works with me, who edited each chapter along the way and was really kind of my partner in the process, which made it more collaborative and more relational for me. But also, she encouraged me to use Dragon speech recognition software so that I could do what's much more comfortable and easy for me, which was talk. So I would put the headset on and I'd speak, tell a story, share some ideas, and it would get captured, and then I would go back in and edit it. So the process of writing really changed. And the funny thing was, I had some resistance to doing that. Some of it was the technology. I don't really understand. I don't know how to do it. But some of it, quite frankly, was, I thought, well, that's cheating. Like, that's not really writing. That's talking. Talking's easy. Writing's hard, And it was this thing that, I had decided in my mind that in order to write a blog post, and then especially in order to write a book, I had to suffer, and I had to struggle, and I had to make it hard. Maybe you can relate to this, right? the saying goes, like, if there's a hard way to do it, I'll find it, kind of thing. You know, a lot of times we make things way more difficult than they need to. What if it were easy? What if we really set it up so that it worked for us? Look, there are things in life, in our jobs, at home, that we got to do that, you know, they're just not that fun. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of cleaning out the litter box or taking out the trash or, you know, doing other chores around the house, but sometimes those things just have to get done. The dishes have to get washed, right? The floor has to get swept. I mean, whatever. In my business, there are certain things that I'm not a huge fan of, but they got to get done. So this isn't to say in some way we can wave a magic wand and never do anything that's, you know, not stressful or annoying or whatever, but there are a lot of things that we can do in our work in particular and in our lives in many ways that set it up so it really works better for us if we're willing to engage in that inquiry and then willing to ask for what we want and specifically ask for the support that we need. I mean, you've probably heard me say this. I've written about this and I speak about it all the time, but I love the saying that the answer is always no if you don't ask. So where in your life right now are there things you're either resisting and or just sort of putting up with or coping with or dealing with that really don't work for you? That if you thought about them more creatively or got some support or were willing to maybe move through some level of insecurity, vulnerability, or just cluelessness like me with making a video like this, that you could actually move past that and then set it up so like, wow, this really works for me, or at least it works better for me. And if we do that, what happens is so many things in our lives can start to take off and move in new directions, and so many things that stress us out unnecessarily can become way easier to deal with. So I appreciate you watching this video and listening to me here. You know, I'm excited about it. This is kind of new. I don't know how often I'll be doing these. I think I might do them quite often, but I'd love to hear your feedback on what you think about the video. You know, feel free to leave some comments on my blog or on Facebook or, you know, on YouTube or wherever you're watching this video, but give me feedback on this as well as, you know, questions or ideas or thoughts or maybe where this relates to your life and maybe some other things you'd like to hear me talk about, because I'm excited to engage a little more like this, and I'm happy that I've done it. So, you know, feel free as always, of course, to stay in touch with me at my website at mike-robbins.com, and I'll talk to you or write to you sometime soon.